Jackson Radio Show.
Paul Manafort, right? He during an anthem, right? Up with the president, right?
Oh, right.
That's the question, right? Someone's doing this, right? For $1,000 here or there, right? Sort of bubble, right? This is laughably terrible, right? So right. I have this crazy spectrum, right? Not strong enough, right? Smoking back in the movies, right?
Planning an apparatus, right?
Completely ahistoric, right? We'll get even higher, right? It's out of the house tomorrow, right? In some ways, right? We have it, right? There's two issues, right? Which he ended up winning,
yes.
Right? Watergate is a sort of interesting precedent, right? It was crossing over all the time, right? They are putting the screws to him unquestionably, right? Be some missing context here, right? Those were all Trump voters, right? It's definitively not true as we now know, right? 99% of them are non-politicals, right? Still, he connects the two, right? I mean, when you saw the healthcare bill, right? Performance, right? All that rubber's going to hit the road at that point, right? They're coming up with, right?
Welcome, everybody, right? That was Chris Hayes of MSNBC, right? Yeah. You know, it's funny. You develop these tics in media. I have them. I say things I'll say anyway a lot. And it's funny when you go back and listen to yourself and you catch yourself doing it. And God forbid you actually focus on trying not to say it, because then you're like, you get all tongue tied. That was Chris Hayes, who says right after everything he says. And here's what's interesting about it. It's a technique and a tick that he doesn't realize he's developed, because he needs validation for the things that he says, right? See, people do that when they are unsure of what they're saying, so they need you to go, yeah. And your inclination as a human being is to go, well, yeah. He's like, oh, so the dog, poop is good in your soup, right? Right. And you're like, yeah. No. And so before your mind, your voice or whatever, your brain catches up with what you just agreed to, you've agreed. And what's funny to me in watching him do this is that he doesn't realize he's doing it, but he needs that affirmation. He's not even necessarily right when he says right. And that's what's funny about it, is that he's generally not right. And it's funny that I'm saying it's funny. People catch these things and then they say, hey, check it out. I wouldn't probably notice it. I've seen those synopses that they did of Sharpton, and I don't know that there's a verbal tick like he says the same thing. I'm sure there is, because most of us do. But to put it all together, and especially with this affirmation, I find interesting. Because when you're wrong as much as Chris Hayes is, to need that affirmation is interesting. I'll say things like right and give you time to say, well, no, not really. And generally speaking, when I go right, I'm pretty much daring you to go against me. Listen to what Chris Hayes, go back and look at anything that he's done where he says right, and you'd be going, no, that's not right. You'd be, at the end of it, no, wrong. But I'm telling you, if I set you up and go right, you better just go, yep, you're right, Kevin. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Rachel Maddow. I never watch Rachel Maddow. For the life of me, I don't know how this woman has a show. I talked to an executive at Fox who says, well, Kevin, she's pretty sharp. And I went, yeah, it's about as sharp as a butter knife. What are you talking about she's sharp? Well, she's able to get people to tune. I go, look. Between us girls here, I guarantee you, if I was on MSNBC and all I did was bash Trump, I could get an audience, and I'd be much more interesting than Rachel Maddow. Her staccato delivery. So, we've got Donald Trump back in the news. And what we have is developing, and it bugs me because it's all theatrics. It's to allow herself time to think. Here's, it's funny. I watch my interviews. There I go. It's funny. I watch my interviews and I say to myself, slow down. I make more verbal faux pas during my interviews because my brain is a lot faster than my mouth. And I also know something else. And I'm just explaining what happens when you guys see me on TV. I know I only have 45 seconds. So here's what happens. I get the call. Kevin, we want you to come on, blah, blah, blah. What's the segment about? It's about this. We need your talking points. You give them a few talking points. You never give them more than they need. They say, great. Carl pick you up, come over, blah, blah, blah. How long's a segment? 3 to 5 minutes, depends, because they're trying to stretch it out. And it depends on who's before you, who's after you, what the topics are, where you are, which block. If you're in the top block, you'll get a lot of time because that's leading off. It's hot. If you're towards the back, you might get bumped. Just depends. So you can figure all this stuff out when you're doing it. Well, long story short, you show up, and if it's just you giving commentary, then it's pretty easy. You can slow down. You'll see those are my best interviews. I mean, in terms of less stumbling over myself. When you're in the window with the host and then another person, they're going to either come to you first or go to that person first. You'll get a response. Then they're going to go back and come back again if you're smart and you demand your time and don't let the other person talk you through. And I've learned how to do that. I'll go like, whatever. You'll hear me say things like that because I want to remind the host that I'm going to give you back a contrarian view that's going to be good TV. So those are the little tidbits. So the point of it is that whatever time you're going to get, you better know in that 4 or 5 minute segment between setup, video, the other person speaking, you're going to get a small amount of time. So my mind is already racing through the 5,000 things that need to be said for this to have really a deeper dive. And, but you can't necessarily say it all. So I know it's frustrating for you guys. Kevin, you should have said this or you should. Yeah, I know. But you got 30 seconds twice to talk, if you're lucky, in a 3 to 5 minute segment. Seriously, that's it. Go look at my interviews. You'll see. You go time them and see how much time. And what I do is I try to be respectful because I want the other side's view to come out so I can bash their brains in, metaphorically, of course, with what I have to say. But you have to fight for your time. So long story short, I look at what Rachel Maddow does and I say to myself, this woman, she vamps. The other day, she's on TV for 25 minutes and she sets up the tragedy that happened in Niger. And it's funny when she leads off, she says Niger. The other people call it Niger. I think it was Secretary Trump's whatever they call it, Chief of Staff Kelly talking about Niger, and then she goes Niger, and then she goes Niger, also known as Niger, and then she goes on to call it Niger because it sounds a lot better to say Niger. So she's talking about Niger, and she's setting it up, 25-minute diatribe. And she tried to connect the dots of this tragic ambush where four, I believe, I'm not sure if they were all Green Berets, but one of them was. But they were killed to President Trump's travel ban. She spent 25 minutes. And what was funny, I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, 4 people were killed in Niger. 4 American soldiers were killed in Niger. We still are trying to figure out the circumstances. But when it was time to talk about Hillary Clinton and the 4 people killed in Benghazi, Rachel Maddow was a mad cow protecting Hillary Clinton over Benghazi. So I went back and I said, I'm going to look at what was said during Benghazi. And every interview with Hillary Clinton was, they're after you. And you can't find an interview where Rachel Maddow is holding the feet to the fire of the Obama administration or anybody over the death of 4 Americans who, by the way, had it not been for the bravery of friends of mine like Chris Tonto, and the other guys that you guys saw in the movie 13 Hours, many others would have been killed. There would have been dozens of people who died. There were some unknown heroes that helped those people escape, and the guys that you heard about, that the Navy SEALs and the Army Rangers that were there, who fought for 13 hours as Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama ignored them, are the ones you get to know about. And yet again, is it a story of triumph? To some degree, yeah, because you had. But yet guys that got killed, guys that are no longer able to use their bodies. I mean, Chris is beat up. One of the Navy SEALs that's a friend of ours, he lost the majority use of his arm. I mean, these guys had career changes over this. Now they know this. They knew this going in. And of course, we've got the guys who died. And what a shame. And Rachel Maddow is talking about these 4 men who died and connecting it to the travel ban. It was such a farce that her own people, the left, said, "What are you doing? You're making a mockery out of this. You're making us look bad." They said, "You're so anti-Trump that it's becoming so obvious that they can't even cope with her." I'm going to leave it there, but trust me that this is going to backfire on her.
Kevin Jackson
On the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.